From the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel, this is the Weather Classroom.
We see it on multiple occurrences. It happens at night, even happens during the day, and that is fog. But what exactly is fog and how does it form? Well, it actually forms pretty simple, and that is because you end up getting two different air masses in place, specifically at night, and then that allows for that fog formation. So here's your setup. You got daytime heating that is now leaving the ground because we're now at nighttime here, and specifically you need this to be mostly on a clear night or a mostly clear night. You don't need a lot of clouds around for this to happen, because what happens is all that heat ends up escaping all the way out into space, and you need that clear air for that to be the most efficient. So then what happens is you get a thin layer of moisture that starts to develop underneath a drier air mass that is above the surface. You got rising air coming up from the surface that passes quickly through that moist layer. And then all of a sudden you start getting a temperature change. This is part of that temperature inversion. You end up having warm air above a layer of cooler air. So that moist layer does not absorb much heat, and air near the surface ends up cooling quicker. And so when that happens, your temperature drops and you get down to the dew point, and then voila, you got moisture that starts to rise, it condenses, and then it turns into water vapor, and that's where fog forms. And fog is actually a cloud. Yes, it is. It is actually considered a stratus cloud, and that is just right next to the layer of the surface. So that's one area of fog formation. There's another area, and we do see this, especially on very cold mornings. You'll be able to see this out in your lakes, rivers, and sometimes streams, and that is what we call steam fog. So how does that actually develop? Well, first off, you're going to have your temperature difference here. So say your water temperature is 58 degrees, your air temperature above it is 49, so that cold air mass moves over a warmer body, lake, stream, river, whatever you may call it, whatever it may be. So then you start getting evaporation. That water evaporates, adding to the moisture near the surface. And again, this is very close to that surface of water. Once you go over land, it's not really that case. It's all over that body of water. And so then you start getting some warming that happens. The air just above the water surface is warmed by the water below, because remember, you have a cold air mass over a warm body of water. That water temperature is warmer than the air. And all of a sudden, as that moisture rises, that water turns into vapor, and it looks like steam. And you notice that it doesn't go extremely high. You don't get a cloud that goes all the way up over here. It is just that steamy look that is just along that body of water. And again, the majority of these happen when we have some very cold nights. You wake up in the morning, you might be going to work, you go down the road, cross a river or whatnot, you see a body of water, and all of a sudden you get this steam that starts to rise because that water temperature is warmer than that body of water. Here's another situation that we'll get every now and then, and this is actually called precipitation fog. So you get rain that's actually falling here. The air above the ground is warm, so you got a warm air mass that moves in above a surface during rainy conditions. And as the precipitation goes on, the raindrops become warmer as they pass through that that layer of warm air, and then the warm air raindrops will get into that cooler air mass, and it'll actually evaporate as it cools near the surface. And so that will aid in that cooling temperature. So you get your temperature inversion once again. Evaporation saturates the air close to the surface even after the rain moves out. So now you got a moist air mass down here at the surface, and then all of a sudden you get some saturation that happens, and it leads to another area of fog. So that's a different type of fog that we see across our area. We get them quite a bit as we go throughout the calendar year, and hopefully this explains exactly what that is and how we end up getting it.